okay. And I think, okay, perfect. I was like, don't forget the check. Okay, I'll stop by tomorrow. I'll message you.
Questions submitted, then if people think of a question, you hold it up, they gather it, and they consolidate it, because some people might be asking the same question. So they have questions.
Yeah, because I've done a lot of I know. They'll start saying, well, this happened in my driveway last week. What are you going to do about it? I'm going, I just get impatient with people like that. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
3.
Well, it's nice to meet you. I want to. Okay, he's gone, so I'll meet you when I meet you.
Seconds. It's just make a statement.
Okay. Yeah, probably not.
So, oh, they're ready early.
Can we take the mask off?
I think we can.
Okay, I'm like, I want to show everybody my smile.
Get ready to begin. I'm Julie Roden. I'm the Executive Director of Stanford Settlement Neighborhood Center, and I want to welcome everyone back. Really excited to have all the candidates in this particular follow to stay well. I know it's annoying, but I appreciate everyone pitching in for that. Unless when you're speaking, please feel free to remove your mask so we can also read your lips. I think that's everything I have to tell you. I'll be around, so if you have any technical difficulties around here, I'm your person. But welcome back, and let's enjoy the evening. I'd like to introduce Julio from GNNA, also known as Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association, who is sponsoring this event.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you everyone for coming to today's candidate forum. GNNA is a neighborhood association that's been in the community for over 2 decades. and we like to provide opportunities for individuals within the community or even people interested in our community to increase their civic engagement and participate in events like the candidate forum that we're co-hosting today. We also are involved in different capacities, such as the transportation mobility plan that I know David, one of our board members, is being very active on, and sometimes even development proposals come through our way, and we try to be engaged in various different ways at a broader level, but also at a direct level, and we do that by annual scholarships that we give out every year, annual holiday dinner we do every December, and upcoming events such as a community mural that's scheduled to come up very soon on Northgate Boulevard, including it was a big effort, and thanks to everyone who was involved with that. And in addition, we have some air quality monitors that are coming up to help give us a sense of what the air quality conditions are in our neighborhood. And so we're very involved. We're a very engaged community, and we like that this kind of represents that with the level of attendance that we see here. And thank you again for attending. I'd now like to turn it over to Brandy with the Natomas Bus.
Good evening. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening. My name is Brandy. I publish the Natomas Buzz, an online-only news publication that's been serving this community for over 12 years. Yesterday I published an article introducing you to tonight's 3 candidates. I'm very excited that you are here tonight to get to know them a little bit better. We will be asking them all questions, but also taking questions from the audience. That's what those cards are for on the tables. If you have a question that you would like to submit, just fill out the card and hold it up, and a volunteer will pick it up from you. This event would not be able to take place without the partnership with Stanford Settlement Neighborhood Center providing us the space. So thank you, Julie, for allowing us to be your first in-person community event. And with the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association, who has such strong ties in this community, and I have a feeling have a lot to do with how many folks we have here this evening. And finally, with the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County, which has provided us the format and volunteers who will moderate this forum, be our timekeeper, and help those who are not registered within this district but live in this district go ahead and register at the end. Over now to Paula Lee from the League of Women Voters. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Brandy. And wow, this is our first in-person forum in a couple years too. So we're really excited to see all of you here. I would say we don't get this many people at our forums usually. A lot of times we say, I think the attendance is mostly the fan club of the candidates. But it looks tonight like we have a great community turnout. So I certainly agree with Brandy, how wonderful that is. So welcome. Tonight we're featuring these candidates from City Council District 3. And as you heard, the forum is sponsored by the Natomas Buzz. I'm guessing it's the go-to news online and the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association. So thanks to them. It's also being streamed live and it's being recorded so other people can see it. We hope to even have it on Metro Cable. Use your recording. They're usually helpful in rebroadcasting things for us. I'm Paula Lee. As Brandy said, I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County. I'll be moderating. The League of Women Voters, we want you to know, is a nonpartisan political organization of women and men. We work at all levels of government, national, state, and local. We encourage the informed, which you're here to get, informed and active participation of citizens in government. And that's what you're doing tonight. We're so happy you are. We do not support or oppose political candidates or any candidates or political parties. And although we don't support or oppose candidates, we are a very political organization. So sometimes people get confused by that, and I want to make it clear that the way we're political is we study and we develop positions. We have positions on all kinds of different issues, including the November election on the ballot.
you can look to the League of Women Voters and see what position we have taken based on our studies on different ballot measures. So use us for that. We encourage that. And we also invite you to join us if you're interested in public policy or just participating in our work or just supporting our work. So tonight the format will be each candidate is going to make a 2-minute opening statement, and then they will be responding to questions that were submitted, as Brandy said. Some were solicited in advance from community members, but you will also have an opportunity to write questions and use those cards for that. Write as clearly as you can, I'd say, for these question sorters here. They'll be looking over the questions, and the reason they look over the questions is just simply to avoid duplication and redundancy, and so we can make sure we cover all the issues. This type of format conforms to the League's policies for a fair and unbiased and nonpartisan forum. Our goal is really just to cover the issues that are important to you. So I always say, turn off your cell phone, you heard that. Hold any applause till the end, just, you know, in fairness to the candidates. And we do ask that campaign materials be kept in the back of the room. I see some are already out, but that's just our policy, just so you know. Then the candidates will also have a 1.5 minutes to respond to your questions, and then they'll have a 1-minute closing statement. So candidates, there's the timer. She came with her bump in her wheelchair tonight. She will give you the 30 seconds, just so you know, to wind it down. You don't have to use the whole 1.5 minutes if you don't want to. We'll just get more questions that way. But there's also, she has a stop sign too. So if it's time to stop, you'll see that one. And then there is time, so the audience knows, time for rebuttals. If these candidates hear something they absolutely think is wrong or something, they can raise their hand, get my attention, and we call those very short, quick rebuttals. It just spices things up sometimes. Because, you know, these forums, in order to keep it really fair, sometimes it gets a little bit boring. But not tonight with all your questions, I can tell. So the candidates running are Adrianne Gonzales, Michael Lynch, and Karina Talamantes. And earlier we drew for speaking order. So we're going to begin with, I'm going to be rotating who answers first. So that's another thing that we do for fairness. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, you can. Good. Okay. So, candidates, thanks so much for being here and participating. We hope you'll stick to the issues rather than reflecting on each other. We find that the voters and the moderators really prefer that. And so we'll begin with an opening statement, and we begin first with Michael Lynch.
Check, check, check. That should start my time, right? I just want to start by thanking Julie and Stanford Settlement for allowing us to be here and to be able to talk about why we should be elected. I'm Michael Lynch. I'm from Sacramento. I went to Valley High School in 2006. I went to a community where there was tremendous human potential, but not always the opportunity, right, to capitalize it. I was raised by a single dad. Sometimes we had enough, sometimes whatever we had, we shared. My dad was my baseball coach, basketball coach, football coach, even dressed up as Santa Claus over Christmas. For me, I had a unique path right to college. I was fortunate because I had a dad at home, because I played football. That provided me an opportunity where not a lot of my peers went. When I was a freshman in college, my life changed forever. I had a phone call at midnight, said my friend was shot and killed. Because for me, it was a moment that wasn't happening over and over again because it often did. That was my path. That was my path to service. So I graduated college, got a master's degree from Sac State. I came sprinting back to my city, my community, and hoped to be able to change it. I worked as state legislator for 6 years, helping to craft progressive policy that's going to impact the lives of 40 million people. But in 2013, I kept seeing the same stuff happen over and over again. Young men of color were being left behind and not being able to access college. So I created an organization. I saw a problem, I created an organization. I said, listen, we're going to close the college opportunity gap for young men of color. 17 young people showed up at Valley High School in April 6, 2013. Now we serve 3,000 across
3 children that I'm that I'm raising with my husband Skylar, who's in the back. Our 3 children's names are Drew, Declan, and Lacey, and we're right here from Gardenland. I'm running for 2 reasons, actually. My first reason is when I was 2 years old, I was involved in a gun violence situation right here in the city of Sacramento. That experience for me instilled within me an ability to want to protect others. I understand that public safety has to be at the forefront of our community, and I especially believe that true for our youth. My second reason, COVID-19 impacted my family heavily, as I know it did so many others in this community. At that time, me and my husband were both working. There was not an availability of childcare, and that led me to want to be able to connect the community with the resources that they need. And I want to be that councilwoman for the community, whether it be for childcare services, whether it be for your small business, or even something as simple as reporting a pothole. I want the community to be educated and know where to go when they need these community resources. I am a Sac State graduate. I did put myself through college and earned a degree in public health. I've studied what promotes and protects people and the communities in which they live. And now I want to be the councilwoman for the District 3 residents and make sure that their quality of life is improved. So I ask you in joining me to make a difference in our community on June 7th. Vote for Adrianne Gonzales. Thank you.
Karina Talamantes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, GNNA, Stanford Settlement, Brandy with the Natomas Buzz. Thank you for the work that you're doing to promote civic engagement in our district. We got to increase the number of people that vote in our area, and we got to make sure our voices get to City Hall. It's time. My name is Karina Talamantes. I'm originally from Willows, California, a small town 2 hours north of here. I'm the proud daughter of immigrant farm workers. My mom worked in a cannery in the graveyard shift to make ends meet. My dad worked in the fields. And, well, I'll get to this in a second. But my parents worked hard. They gave us a lot of love, but we didn't have a lot of money. I am a graduate of UC Davis. I majored in environmental science and graduated in 2011. My freshman year of college, my father passed away in a workplace accident because of unsafe working conditions. So workers' rights, worker safety, worker pay, and protecting our working class of District 3 are super important to me. I'm qualified. I'm currently president of our Sacramento County Board of Education. I represent you right now on the board and our 245,000 students in our 13 school districts. I'm a small business owner in our community. Me and my brother have a food truck called Frutazo. And I'm currently a chief of staff at City Hall, where I see the issues and the problems firsthand. I understand the challenges that we're experiencing. I'm running on homelessness, unhoused Sacramentans are Sacramentans too, but we gotta do more. We gotta take a compassionate yet pragmatic approach. I understand what we're going through. Public safety, but more than police and fire, safe parks, bike trails, traffic lights, making sure we have traffic lights on Northgate. It's time. We have the funding. It's time. And there's so much more in improving the quality of life for us, our community, our diverse, beautiful community, and I'm ready to represent you, and I hope to earn your trust, your confidence, and your vote by the end of today.
Thank you. Okay, first question will be for Michael Lynch, and then we'll be rotating order. Now, some of these questions you may have covered a little bit in your opening statement, but why not have a chance to expand? What experience do you have that will help you succeed in your new leadership role if elected to the Sacramento City Council?
One of the most important attributes you need as a city council person is a problem solver, the ability to identify a problem and solve it. 2013, I created an organization to help close the college opportunity gap for young men of color. We started off with 17 young people and about a $6,000 budget. Today, we serve 3,000 across. We have a $9 million budget and employ 130 people. I understand what it's like to balance a budget. I understand what it's like to have people depend on you, right, to make sure that you can make ends meet. And for IYT and Improve It Tomorrow, we have closed the college opportunity gap. That experience, being able to mold and shape families and be able to work with young people, gives me direct knowledge to the needs within our community. I spent 6 years working in the state capitol as a senior advisor. I got an opportunity to craft statewide policy that help to transform neighborhoods. Helped to work on an issue with helped to raise $1 million for Habitat for Humanity through the tax checkoff for affordable housing. I worked on progressive policy to begin to repeal mandatory sentencing drug laws. I helped to work directly on issues that improve the community. September 2020, we launched a campaign called the 1300 campaign, recognizing that there was still a drastic need to increase college attendance, but also to tackle suspension rates within schools. So we created a campaign. We brought K through 12 leaders together. We brought college presidents, philanthropic leaders together to be able to solve a problem. On the city council, you have to be able to bring people together, establish a vision, and move that vision to action. Within that campaign, we were able to end willful defiance within Natomas Unified and begin to solve problems. Thank you.
You might want to leave the stop sign up until they stop.
Are we able
Adrianne Gonzales.
Thank you. Are we able to ask for a repeat of the question?
Sure. What experience do you have that will help you succeed in your new leadership role if elected to the Sacramento City Council?
Okay, so I'll make this clear, just to get this out the way. I am new to politics, so I don't have the government policies behind me, but what I do want to explain is my importance and what it means to be part of community. I'm a parent. I have 3 children in this community that I'm raising. I've been in Gardenland for 2 years. Something that's so important to me is being so involved in my children's lives. Twin Rivers Unified School District, I'm actively participating in. I go to just about every single parent meeting, anything that they have in terms of involvement to make sure that I'm participating in my children's lives. I'm currently even in talks with the principal to make sure that we can bring back that parent involvement to the school district. I think that's so important. When you have the home and the school connection, that is when our students can be most successful. And so that's one thing right there. My second thing I would say that I also want to bring to the attention is I truly believe, I learned in college that leadership quality is within you. There's different types of leadership, and one of the most important ones that I learned about was great man's theory, also known as trait theory. You have leadership qualities within you. I had to fight as a 2-year-old going through a traumatic situation. That taught me to make sure that I could stand up for myself and know to give back to my community, and that is what I plan to do. And so with that power into me and with my children, those are things that have just really encouraged me to be a part of the community. Thank you.
Karina Talamantes.
I have 8 years of experience working in education, hands-on, where I help low-income and first-generation kids get to college. I have 4 years of experience working in human resources, connecting people to jobs, and most recently, as a business owner. I've worked on the assembly line of Bell Carter olives, looking for pits and sliced olives. I've worked in the fields with my dad, changing sprinkler heads on every tree, cutting my fingers, having them bleed. I've worked as a soccer coach for 3rd graders when I was in high school to get extra cash in my pocket to be able to buy a straightener, to be able to buy Cheetos. The small things that as a low-income kid growing up, you just don't have access to an extra $1, an extra $5, and $10. It's tough. But what prepares me, not just my experience, but my ability to ask for help when I need it. My ability to build friendships, my ability to build relationships, and ultimately to build trust. I will work hard for us at City Hall. I promise you that, because I've been working hard all my life. But I need you by my side. When it's time to fight for funding, I need you to call into City Council. When I am having an issue with a complex issue like policy coming to City Council that's going to be controversial, I'll call you. I'll let you know what's going on. If there's ever a closed session item that maybe I can't tell you about because of the legalities of government, I'll also let you know that, you know what, we'll find out soon. I will work with you to create real change in Sacramento.
Okay, this time we're, and the reason I've been repeating their names, just so, you know, you hear them over and over. Not that you'll forget about them, but I'll do that a couple times. So this question we're going to begin with Adrianne. Gardenland Northgate, as you know, if you live here, is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Sacramento. And it's often an overlooked neighborhood. what is it about you that will make this neighborhood a priority if you are elected to the city council?
I'm like, how do you know this question was for me? Gardenland and Northgate, I live right here on the main street of West El Camino, and I deal with a lot of the concerns that Gardenland and Northgate face. A lot of the traffic concerns that we have, the collisions that we experience daily, and one actually right in front of my house, which was very traumatic, but the experiences there. The other thing about it is we are often, that was a true statement, we are often overlooked. We have not been given the resources. I understand when Jeff Harris ran in 2014, he said South Natomas would not be the forgotten stepchild of this community, and unfortunately it was. A lot of things have been improved, but there is also a need for change, and I'm willing to step up. I understand a lot of the disparities that come from these communities that are underserved and have people of color. Oftentimes we don't have access to clean air, we don't have access to clean water, we don't have access to reliable transportation. South Natomas has been begging for transportation services, and they have not gotten here. And so all of those things in conjunction, and even being a member of this community, is something that I'm so passionate about, and I will continue. I'm raising, again, I'm going to reiterate this, 3 children in this community. I want it to be a safe place for my children. I want it a safe place for your children, your families. And in order to do that, we have to stand up for these disparities that we're experiencing and take them to City Hall so that we can go ahead and make those changes that we want to see, and especially for Gardenland and Northgate.
Yes, ma'am.
Karina Talamantes.
I love our community. I love the diversity. I love the people. And I saw how hard our community came together to run the Natomas High School vaccination clinic, where we intentionally did outreach in different languages to meet the needs of our community. We had a hotline open every Monday to make sure that people that didn't have technology or had language barriers also had access to the vaccines. I know Julie with Stanford Settlement has been a champion of this issue. There's a lot of incredible people in this room, including David, who's been fighting for Niños Parkway, who's been fighting for the Northgate mobility study to make sure that we have lights implemented at the right places. Because we have 3 schools front-facing Northgate, and we have cars flying by 60 miles per hour. We just need to make sure our students get to school safely. And that's unacceptable. That's our number one ask, that our students get to school safely. It's unacceptable. We need to do more, and we got to push harder on the city. Yes, I work at the city, and we got to push because I know who to call. Why? Because I have relationships. Because you treat people with respect. You have open communication, and you just work hard and you follow through. I will work hard with every single community leader in this room to make sure that we see our fair share of funding and our fair share of resources for our community, because we deserve it.
Michael Lynch?
Am I allowed to rebuttal?
Oh, a rebuttal.
Really quickly.
Very quick.
I just want to add one comment on the fair share thing. Back to my comment about Jeff Harris. This isn't about fair share anymore with Gardenland and Northgate. We are at the forefront of this redistricting with Gardenland and especially Northgate Boulevard. So I want to make sure that everybody understands in here that this is not fair share anymore. We're going to come for what we deserve.
Michael Lynch.
My son goes to daycare on San Juan and Northgate. Our office is right off of Northgate Boulevard. And every day I drive into school, see kids from Point Northwest apartment complex walking through garbage to get to middle school at Rio Terra Middle School. So you're leaving a home which is challenging, which could be challenging. You're walking across garbage to school, and then what you go to is a school that's tremendously under-resourced. So these are issues in which I'm fighting for every single day. And historically, we have not gotten our ability to have clean streets, clean and safe streets, because the status quo hasn't worked. Time and time again, we hear promises from people that are going to come and clean up the streets. You walk into Curtis Park, Land Park, any other park across Sacramento, what you find is clean streets. Right? When you walk down Northgate, right? When you walk down San Juan, you see encampments, you see trash. Something else has to be made different. And for me, and that continues to be a frustration. I'm just driving down to take my son right to school every day. So we need more. Right? We need a person who's going to fight continuously every single day. And that's what I've been doing my entire right in District 3 are struggling. I see it every single day. They're struggling with their mental health. They're struggling with COVID, all the challenges that it's caused. We need someone who understands the challenges that young people are facing, the challenges their families are facing. And every single day, I'm talking with young people, hoping to solve problems to move our district forward.
Karina, we'll begin with you. This one, how will you address homelessness in a way that is respectful to both neighborhood residents and the unhoused?
Unhoused Sacramentans are Sacramentans too. We have to take a compassionate yet pragmatic approach to this issue. Right now, District 3 has two different proposals. We have the Staybridge Hotel, which should be hopefully opening up this spring and summer. 200 to 600 individuals that are unhoused will be redirected to the site. This is the Staybridge Hotel across the street from the Target, and we have funding for that. I know Joshua's house is also in the conversation. There's still a lot of work to be done on this project, and a lot of work with the community to make sure that it's in the right location. It's a notable project. Its intent is good. It could be done. I'm not sure if the location is appropriate, but it's a notable project, and I do believe that people can rest in dignity and peace in a bed. That's important for unhoused. Now, with this being said, it's important that we work with the County of Sacramento for wraparound services. We need more substance abuse. We need more mental health solutions. And we do. I know that right now a lot of students and people are being chased by off-leash dogs, by our unhoused, which is their protectors. But that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable that our kids are being chased. So how do we get more dogs on leashes and partner with animal activist rights groups? How do we pick up the trash? How do we do trash pickup for our unhoused? Put it down Northgate. Do more community cleanups. There's a lot more we can do, and I know how to do it.
Michael?
For me, homelessness is personal. My mom is currently homeless. When growing up, I was homeless in both 8th and 9th grade. So this is an issue that affects me deeply because I have experiences, I understand the challenges that families and young people face when dealing with unsheltered. But within the city, right now, we have 63 different entry points and 112 different services. If Michael Lynch needs to be served, how do I be served? We have no coordinated service entry models. We need to expand our coordinated service entry model so people can actually be served. COVID has ravaged the mental health and substance abuse challenges. We need to work with the county to be able to expand, to make sure there are more providers for folks who want services are served. Currently, right now, the city of Sacramento is sitting on thousands of acres, right, of unused land. We need to make sure we are leveraging those resources to shelter folks in place. I think about prevention. I think about how the city does not have any homeless prevention plan in place to make sure that more people are not homeless. If we think about foster youth or LGBTQ youth or other young people or formerly incarcerated folks, that they are more likely than any other demographic to be homeless. But right now, the city, despite its $600 million general fund, $1.3 billion budget, has no plan in place not to increase homelessness, no long-term vision to be able to do it. I know for me as an entrepreneur and business leader, these are skills that I have. I have scaled effective programs, and I've made sure that we're able to solve problems. Thank you.
Adrianne?
Thank you. So homelessness for me also, to piggyback off what Michael said, is personal as well. So I spent my early youth in the Wind Youth Center off Dixie Ann in Del Paso Heights. Every single day I was there serving the community, helping with donation drives, helping in the kitchen, sitting at the front desk, taking in homeless youth risk assessments. Oftentimes with homelessness, I wanted to point out as well that there's often an interpretation of what homelessness is. Oftentimes it's judged as people being mentally ill and people being on drugs, and that's not always the case. There are families who are living out of their cars. And so we really need to stop that notion of assuming that people are just on drugs. We see it in the community, yes, that's true, but I don't believe that we should be taking the approach of assuming what people's situations are. So I wanted to say that first. I believe homelessness at this point needs a more enthusiastic approach. We have not done enough. Something else Michael said, we do have what's called an impact program, but we're not doing enough. What we need for homelessness is to make sure that we are providing the services for mental health and drug use, and that is going to be through the county. But also we need to look at the services we're providing. Sacramento Steps Forward does different types of programs right now. Their continuum of care is just now focusing on rapid rehousing. That is something that is so crucial, that has benefited so many other communities, and I think it's time that Sacramento steps their foot down and goes ahead and increase their use with rapid rehousing.
Okay, Karina has a rebuttal.
The city of Sacramento recently allocated $1 million to have one point of entry for unhoused and homeless services. So in the next few months to come, hopefully our ability to help those in need should become easier for us too. Because I work at the city of Sacramento right now, and I know how tough it is.
Real short, those rebuttals.
Sorry.
Okay, Michael, your question first. What are your 2 top highest priorities for the district?
Keep standing up.
That's okay. That's okay.
So like for City of Sacramento, the greatest challenge we face right now is housing. It's been attacked with the homelessness crisis and affordability. We look at the numbers continue to increase year after year after year because city leaders haven't gotten it right to be able to afford it. Affordability is critical. And a part of affordability is make sure that we are building housing, that we are offering the right incentive packages. Right now, the City of Sacramento has a housing trust fund that is supposed to be used to be able to get money out to developers to build. Right? But right now, we have money within the housing trust fund. Not enough is to be done quick enough. When I think about the reason why I got into this race was young people. Was seeing the outcomes in which young people continue to have, right, despite resources being available. I had a conversation with a young person the other day. He said, Michael, I got pulled over 14 times within the past couple months, like no tickets at all. Right? Can you imagine that as a young person just being able to drive down the street and being scared because you're going to get pulled over because of profile? So we have to have rapid response and criminal justice reform to make sure that we can have an equitable system. We need to have wraparound support services for young people. We need to make sure that we are building enough housing so prices stabilize, and we have to make sure that we remove that we can tackle homelessness.
Adrianne?
Okay, so my priorities as well. I think my first priority also is addressing the homelessness, because if you address homelessness, you address everything else. My other 2 drivers on my campaign are safety and housing, and so those things go hand in hand. If we are getting people off the streets, estimated right now, there's about 11,000 people living on the streets. I participated in the point in time count with Sacramento Steps Forward, I believe last month or the month before. And during that count, you're out there on the streets canvassing, seeing how many different individuals are living on the streets, and you see the encampments, and it's just a huge issue that it's created. We also had about 200 plus people die on our streets last year. That's unacceptable. At this point, we need to address the homelessness issue. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to reiterate, I also agree that there needs to be prevention. We need to prevent people from becoming homeless. Families oftentimes are one family emergency away from living on the streets, and that's just not acceptable. We live in a community where they have resources. There's funding been made available, the CARES Act, the American Rescue Plan money. There's plenty of money available to throw into these services. And so I think if we can address homelessness, get people off the streets, keep them prevented from being homeless, and keeping people who are housed right now from being homeless is going to address every issue that we're having going forward, any of the additional issues.
Karina?
Public safety. Supporting our police, supporting our fire department, supporting our City of Sacramento workforce. We need to invest in our parks, in our bike trails, in safe streets, safe sidewalks, accessible streets too, slowing down traffic, investing in our Sacramento libraries, increasing community center hours, supporting what we have already, and maybe creating more recreational activities and more things for our community to enjoy, to build community, to protect one another. The best thing in your neighborhood to have is each other's phone numbers. So we got to invest in that, in investing in our relationships. But equally important, economic justice for workers, but also for our businesses. We need to give the communities and our businesses down Northgate and in South Natomas an opportunity to succeed. We need to invest in Northgate just as we do in downtown with alfresco dining. Just like the 916 card, where people can shop and dine and half the dollars also go back to the employer. where you as a resident can spend money at La Superior, and La Superior also gets some funding, and you're supporting a local business. There's a lot of programs that the city of Sacramento has, but we're not bringing them to our side of town. And it's time. And if people have more money in their pockets, that's going to help them with food insecurity, with rent, with keeping a roof over their head, and much more.
This question, we begin with Adrianne. This is an interesting question. How will you work or collaborate with council members that oppose your ideas or opinions?
So I think that in any regard, if you're working with people who oppose you, I think the best thing that you can do is bring your issues to the forefront. It's important to make sure that your voice is heard, and that is the I don't want to say promise, but that is what I plan to do if I go to City Hall. I want to make sure that every voice from District 3 is being heard, the concerns that we have and have had for so long get recognized at City Hall. Oftentimes they're forgotten. South Natomas, as I mentioned already, has been forgotten for a long time, and we need to bring those issues to the forefront of City Hall, working together. You may not always agree with everybody. That's the part of being a human. Sometimes people don't see your way. When they're not in your own realm of thinking, they don't see the same way as you, and that's okay. But when we're in a professional setting, when you are an elected member of your community and you're taking those issues to City Hall, you want to make sure that you're voicing the opinions of your constituents, and that is what I plan to do if I'm elected to the City Council.
Karina?
I'm currently president of the Sacramento County Board of Education. We're a nonpartisan board, but we have Republicans, Independents, and Democrats on my board. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, yet we still have those conversations. And when there's a controversial topic coming to SCOE, I ask the person that thinks the opposite of me to include me in their Brown Act circle, because you're only allowed to talk to 2 other people. Now, when I vote against a council member, it's not going to be taken personal. I mean, that's democracy, right? And that's why we get elected, to fight for our districts and for the greater good of Sacramento. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be accountable to you. 63,000, almost 65,000 people in District 3. When I vote yes or no, I will come home with an explanation as to how and why I arrived to my conclusion. Yes, we may agree sometimes, and other times we'll disagree. But hopefully at that point, we're like a family. And we come back around, circle around, see where maybe we miscommunicated, and figure out a solution. Because we gotta do better for our city. And we gotta fight for District 3, and we just gotta do better. It's time. It's been over 10 years since a council member that lived on this side of town represented this side of town. I live in South Natomas, right next to Natomas High School, across the street from my brother. I drive down our streets and I see when those bus stops at RT have broken lights. I understand.
Michael?
Right now, what you get is a lot of finger pointing between the city and the county who's responsible. It's not leadership. It's not leadership because leaders right now don't take accountability for their actions. Despite they disagree. I know for me, I've spent my professional career bringing people together to solve collaborative issues. Right here in Sacramento County, we have the highest suspension rate for black students in the entire state, right here in Sacramento County. So to tackle this problem that has been consistent, I brought together K through 12 superintendents, college presidents, philanthropic leaders, business leaders, all people who believe drastically different things. And we said, listen, we are going to change policy at the school district level to be able to improve outcomes. So we worked with the Natomas Unified School District through a resolution in October to pass the first ever ban for willful defiant suspensions. But that was through a collaboration of different-minded people. We set a goal, a clear goal. Listen, here's the vision. Here's where we want to be able to go, and we worked through it together. It wasn't about finger pointing of whose problem it was. It was bringing people together to solve a clear and consistent problem. In Building Improving Tomorrow, from an organization from ground zero to serving 3,000 young people, I had to bring people together who did not agree. I had to bring them together for a common vision of equity and opportunity for all young people, despite neighborhood, despite background, despite ethnicity, despite orientation. And that's what I spent my professional career doing.
Okay, this one we begin with Karina. Sorry about that. I know it, Katrina. How do you plan on assisting in building better infrastructure in and around our area here?
I recently passed, or the year 2018, I passed a $172 million school bond. I have run ballot measures. I have run campaigns. And I will work with you to see what we want to do next. If that's a parcel tax or not. If that's a P-bid or not. We will work together to see how it is that we can bring more funding to our area. And that includes applying for grants. It's my understanding that our community wrote a grant on our own time, and the city of Sacramento didn't submit it. But we met all the criteria to have received the funding for it. That's not okay. If we have creative ideas and we want to apply for funding for our community, then I'll empower you and my team to do so. Let's go out and find those dollars and create that investment. And anytime there's any kind of mid-year budget, we will make sure that we look through it, comb by comb, making sure that we look at every line item to see where those dollars are going and making sure that we get our fair share of dollars.
Michael?
So for me, when you walk through the streets of Gardenland and Northgate, what you see is potholes, you see sidewalks that are falling apart, you see weeds that are growing out of the streets. When you walk down Northgate, traffic speeds by. So our physical infrastructure here in our community has to be able to change, to be able to make it a place where we can walk with our family, so we can bike. Our physical infrastructure has to be able to evolve past a point where it is more improved community structure. So at City Hall has a direct ability to impact your road. And when you walk through Gardenland, Northgate right now, you do not see the investment in roads to be able to improve it. So as a city council person, I will make sure that we are advocating for a clear, equitable strategy. I think too, we have to think differently than how our neighborhoods look and how our neighborhoods are structured. We need to make sure that we are building housing that is next to job centers, that is right next to retail, so we can have places where we can walk, right, to be able to gather. And unless we have a person who is fighting for this community to make sure that there's an equitable investment in our roads and our infrastructure, and we can build the street lights across Northgate, that we can have the projects here to make sure that this community is safe, we'll continue to falter. That's my plan as city council, to make sure that we can lobby for the funding that's needed to change the infrastructure of our community.
Adrianne?
Thank you. So I agree with Michael. A lot of the infrastructure here is lacking, and unfortunately, as a member of the community, it's pretty unfortunate. It's difficult to want to walk your children to school when there's no crosswalks down Northgate, or trying to cross the signal lights at, I take my children down the street to Northgate, and trying to cross those signal lights, oftentimes it's difficult. And so currently there is a plan being enacted for there to be signal lights implemented on Northgate Boulevard. That includes down Rio Terra, Hagen, Satano Drive, and Wisconsin. However, that's not enough. We do need to do more. I know also that currently Measure U, there's a committee involved with Measure U that there was given $1 million. Right now we have something called participatory budgeting that's allowing residents to put in their input in regard to what they want to see in their community. Now, currently under this phase, it's in North Sacramento and South Sacramento, yes. However, anybody can put in their ideas, and that's April and May. You guys can do that as community members to make sure that your voices are heard and that you can get the things done in your community that you want. The money's there. It's going to fire, police, parks, and libraries. Our infrastructure, we can get it updated. We can participate in participatory budgeting in the Measure U committee, working with them to make sure that we get the funds that we need to see the improvement that we want to see in our neighborhoods.
All right. Okay, Michael, we'll begin with you on this one. What are your plans for your constituents of low economic means?
Economic mobility. When we think about the foundation of what government is supposed to do, they're supposed to provide economic mobility for those at the bottom. I told you, I grew up in a single parent home. My dad raised my siblings and I largely by himself. Sometimes we had enough Sometimes we didn't. But for me, my pathway to a better life was education. We know right here in Gardenland and Northgate, we have some of the lowest high school graduation rates, lowest college attendance rates, right, and lowest college completion rates. We also don't have a pipeline to the trades that provide quality jobs right here. So the plan to be able to create economic mobility has to be centered like in an education-based model that is structured with providing access right to the trades. When we think about the outcomes for our young people and what City Council has failed to do, working on a campaign in 2018 called Measure G, that was trying to push the City Council to give 2.5% of its budget right to young people. There were several council members on that, right, who opposed the measure, right, therefore it didn't pass. That Measure G was supposed to provide more programs to young people, like summer reading, an expanded reading program, landscape and learn, internships, workforce development, but also community gathering spaces for young people to be able to do. So if we want to be able to move folks from poverty to the middle class, we have to invest in our young people, we need to invest in our education, we have to invest in opportunities to make sure we provide access to high-paying jobs.
Adrianne?
Thank you. So again, being from a neighborhood, Gardenland and Northgate, where the average median salaries in these areas is anywhere from $30 at a low to at the high $70,000. When you're talking about raising a family, that is just simply not enough money. They tell you in the schools, I sit on, like I said, just about anything Twin Rivers allows, and they have a local control accountability plan, and in that plan, one of their main goals is to tell you about college readiness. And when you're a community member raising a family and only making somewhere between $30,000 to $70,000, how do you prepare your children? Depending on how many you have, it doesn't even matter. Even one child, that's simply not enough to look toward college readiness and really be prepared to send your child to college. It's just not enough money. So my solution on that is we really need to reduce poverty. We need to make sure that we provide higher paying jobs, boosting our small businesses. They are the economic drivers of our communities. We need to make sure that people have access to these jobs. One of the biggest ways, and I'm completely looking forward to as a healthcare advocate, is looking forward to that California North State University Hospital that's coming to North Natomas. That is going to be one of the biggest drivers of high-paying jobs in our community to look forward to. And as I mentioned, I'm a healthcare advocate, so I'm in full support of that project, and I can't wait to see more jobs being able to be added to our community so that people can make more money and take care of their families. Thank you.
We need to make sure, sorry. Okay, we got to make sure that government is accessible to people. We got to make sure that people can trust government. Got to make sure that I can build a relationship with you as a council member so that you can tell me what's going on in the community so I can help fix some of the issues. We got to make sure that there's language access too. We have over 15 different languages spoken in our community. So are we translating government resources and programs into the various language that they should be in? No. We got to do that. What's the point of having a program if people don't know about it? What's the point of investing and creating a whole fancy program, making a big headline, if people don't know about it? We got to make sure it's accessible. Accessibility is going to be the key in helping us. But in addition, I do want to make sure that people have good jobs after graduating from high school. We got to prepare our students to be college and career ready. We got to make sure that the workers that lost their jobs during the pandemic have access to programs. Maybe some good union paying jobs. Unions have done a lot for our country with better wages, health care, breaks, safety, and much more. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of all our different union organizations here in Sacramento at the Sacramento Central Labor Council, SEIU, our home health care workers, and all those workers that have been on the front lines during this pandemic. You know what they got? They got fancy billboards in front of people's homes saying, "Thank you, health heroes." That's not what they wanted. What they wanted was better wages, and that's what District 3 needs.
Adrianne, first question. What is your plan for community engagement, especially with communities of color?
So again, I think I'm just going to keep reiterating this tonight. Gardenland and Northgate, specifically in South Natomas, but a majority of South Natomas are lower income communities, people of color, low income, disabled, elderly, mentally ill. We have such a vulnerable population here in this community. And I think it's important, as I initially started, to make sure that the community has the resources that they need. As a council member, making sure that I can bridge that gap and provide people with the resources that they need. In terms of community engagement, I think that's also reaching out to your stakeholders, talking to the community, going to events, seeing your people out in the community, being able to have those one-on-one conversations that are going to tell you what the community needs. The stakeholders are going to tell us best what we need in terms of community engagement. And as a council member, I hope to put on more events, being able to engage the community. That's one of the things I want to do. There's not a big education in this community because, again, lower income, people of color, and I think we need to change that narrative. We need to make sure that people know it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic class is. You can come out, you can be involved, and you can contribute to this. I do want to make one small other note that's in my mind. Social justice. We have a huge voting right disparity in this community. A lot of people I tried to get signatures from on the nomination petition couldn't even vote. And that's not right. At a local level, they should have every right to vote and ensure they know who their council member is and is going to be. Thank you.
Karina?
Thank you.
I'm a firm believer that government can work. It does work. For myself and for my family, we're a product of government working. And I want to be able to put programs in place for other families because I'm thankful for the programs and the people that put the programs in place for my family to be successful. My family, we grew up in Afton, California. It was a 30-person town out in the country. I took a ferry to school. Thanks to a program called CHIP Housing, my parents were able to apply for a home loan at a really low interest rate. And they built their own home, nail by nail, wood piece by wood piece, with 14 other neighbors. And that's the home I grew up in for 17 years of my life. That was home. And I'm happy that I had a home over my head. And we got to make sure that more families have housing security because that contributes to academic success. But that's a program that the leaders in place in Washington, D.C. put a program in to help me succeed. When my father passed away, we had just bought a new home because we had built equity. He left my mom single at 50 years old with 5 kids. And my mom doesn't know English. Luckily, I have a really large family that came to the rescue. They were able to help us move into our older home that we had. It was a really scary time. We got evicted. It was scary for our families. And this is what's going on across Sacramento. And I have that personal lived experience, so I understand in our community and the struggles that we're going through.
Michael?
In all due respect, government does not work. 100% does not work. Works for some people. Works for some people. You live in a certain community, a certain neighborhood, of a certain background. But for the far majority of the city of Sacramento, government doesn't work. The reason why government doesn't work was the reason why I had to create an organization to close the college opportunity gap for young men of color. Because government doesn't work. Time and time again. During the pandemic, to be able to engage our families, we delivered thousands of meals across right here in District 3, in Gardenland, Northgate, South Natomas, all over Sacramento. Right now, Improving Tomorrow hosts pop-ups every other Friday to engage young people from all across the city. We have engaged probably over 1,000 young people the past year and a half, for making sure that young people have a safe space to be able to do. So as a council person, knowing that government historically has not worked for this community, we have to do something different. So community engagement is critical to make sure that South Natomas Community Center right now is in phase 1. It's been in phase 1 probably for 10 years. The phase 2 is to build an auditorium where community can gather. We think about the Garden and Arts Center right on Newborough Circle, where the old fire station used to be. That will be a project that I support. That will be a project I make sure that gets funded and executed. When we think about just simple movie nights, I know my wife and I, right, we used to love going to the pop-up movie nights right within the parks to bring our kids. We need to be able to have the same sort of community engagement right here in District 3 that they have in every other part of the city. That's what I plan to do as your council person.
Karina? how would you encourage more infill development and less development on farmland? How would you encourage more infill development and less development on farmland?
Okay, so one, Natomas has a Natomas Basin Conservancy, which helps us dedicate land aside to help protect natural species and to have open spaces. That's important, and we got to maintain that. In terms of housing, it's important that we have rules and regulations for density, that we also protect the nature of our community. It's important to have multi-family homes, affordable, inclusive housing. I was raised by immigrant farm workers. I know the importance of housing and being able to put a roof over your head. I know that importance because I lived it. I know Natomas is very unique. South Natomas is very unique in its nature because of the policies passed back when our former mayor Heather Fargo was here. She helped develop South Natomas, and that's why you see the unique infrastructure in our city. You see 3 homes in one corner. You see larger homes in some areas, and it's just creative. We got really creative. And as we continue with housing, one, we just got to increase the housing production across all levels, but we got to look at ADUs, in-law units, and we just got to get creative. Because many of us take care of our older mothers and grandmothers. I take care of my mom, who's 60, and my grandma, who's 86. It's important that we give them housing and that we can make housing work for our families and our individual needs.
Michael?
My wife and I are raising our kids right in the district. We own a home right in this district. So I think about what infill development can do to transform a neighborhood. That's what that is. Finding open spaces. You drive down Northgate, what do you see? Open spaces. You see the ability to put retail, you see the ability to put restaurants, you see the ability to put places where people can gather. So we have to begin to think differently in order to solve the problems that continue to be. But also think about infill development, I think about housing. Think about how rents have rose 20%, but yet we have very little housing development right here in District 3, but yet all the different spaces to be able to build. So my job as your council person is to be an advocate. There's this tool called a low-income housing tax credit, in which the city council and the city can be able to lobby and use to be able to get folks to build. The city has resources through their housing trust fund to make sure housing is built right here in District 3. The city has thousands of acres of unused lots all across that we should be able to incentivize developers to be able to build. So in order for us to fill development, to fill those vacant lots all across Northgate Boulevard, all across District 3, we have to partner with private industry to make sure that we can build. And the city has the resources, $1.3 billion budget, but yet not the political will to do it right here. We need an advocate, I'm that advocate.
Adrianne?
Okay, so my understanding of this is that we really need to preserve our land. South Natomas is notorious. A lot of the people who live on the lots here have land that their property sits on, and a lot of that can be acreage or just whatever they have on their property. I think that needs to be preserved. I hear a lot about the housing, and I understand that we need to build housing, but it's been said that we need about 120,000 homes to keep up with the population influx that we have here, and that's about for the next 8 years. And I don't think that's accurate, because if you think about population influx and the continuation of families, adding family members, we can't keep up with that population influx. And so we need to be smart about how we're developing. The projects that go in really need to be made on smart decisions. A lot of the current projects that we have are concerning to a lot of community members, because they may not necessarily fit into the community, or maybe the stakeholders there don't want that particular building or affordable housing unit to go up. And so I think the most important thing as a council member is going to be listening to the stakeholders and listening to what it is that they want to see in their own communities.
Michael?
I got confused too.
I think I've got the thing going. I have my little...
Good job.
Yeah, really high tech. Michael, how would you make we'd like to know this from all of you. The league would love to know. How would you make the County of Sacramento do their job and offer more mental health services and other services for the homeless?
Yep. So that again, that is the challenge. That's the biggest challenge we face. So the county is technically the Health and Human Service Agency. They receive money from the state and the federal government to be able to provide homeless services to folks who are unsheltered. A part of that is to make sure that but historically the two organizational cultures haven't worked well together. City leaders point fingers at the county leaders, counties point fingers at the city leaders. I think one thing you have to do is hold them accountable. You have to hold them accountable to be able to, to deliver the service that they're supposed to do. But a big part of collaborative leadership is setting the goal, is setting the vision, is saying, hey, listen, what we want to be able to do in the city is to be able to build 10,000 new homes and take 5,000 people who are unsheltered to shelter. So when you set a goal, what you have is public accountability. If you're not meeting that goal, folks can be able to come to you and hold you accountable. And so but what we have right here within the city is not that ability of leadership. Because we have finger point, back and forth. Whose fault is it? But for me, I know, and I'm going to come back to this every single time. I'm a problem solver. I'm not a person who's going to point a finger and say, hey, this is your problem, this is my problem. I'm going to bring people together, set a goal to move folks forward. That's what I've done.
Adrianne?
Okay, so mental health services is, again, something that we need crucially. There's so many people suffering on our streets every single day from mental illness, and I think one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we bring that voice to the county. I don't believe, unfortunately, at this point that we can even hold them accountable because, people have voiced their concerns. People have come to the county and said, hey, we need these services, and it hasn't gotten done. So it's unfortunate that, as Michael had said, there is a lot of finger pointing, and I've heard it from the city council as well, and it's a shame because we need to be responsible. The homelessness, again, I'm going to reiterate this as well. 11,000 people every single night sleeping on our streets. 200 plus people died on our streets last year. That's unacceptable. We need to open the respite centers. We need to make sure that there's shelter. We need to make sure that there's programs available to the county. And I'm really not sure what it is, what the holdup. It's not government funding because we know the government funding is there. I believe it was $104 million last year that went to the sheriff's department. That money could have been utilized on mental health services. It could have been utilized on other things that would have helped our community and helped the people on the streets. So I want to look at different practices. Again, I reiterated rapid rehousing earlier. That is a solution to provide rent assistance in a short amount of time, making sure that people have a roof over their head, and then also case management services.
In regards to this issue, we got to force the county to do their jobs, and that's building relationships with the supervisors there and the CEO there, and asking them to please help us with the wraparound services. The city of Sacramento can help with housing, and I think that we can get very creative with that. But at the end of the day, housing is only one component of the problem. We got to make sure that the services come along with it. So one size doesn't fit all. So our unhoused, everyone has an individual story. Everyone has an individual need. One size doesn't fit all. And we really do have to meet people with where they're at. Right now, at SCOE, at the Sacramento County Board of Education, we worked with the county to hire social workers at 20 different schools. And our goal is to wrap up to 400 so that we have one social worker at every single school for prevention. Prevention is one of the solutions to homelessness. And now we will have a reliable funding source. We're able to bill Medi-Cal for those social workers as the students receive services at their schools. So again, that's equity because we have the services coming to the schools, and hopefully we can do that with our homeless shelters.
Adrianne? How do you think that the city of Sacramento can address gun violence in light of recent incidents?
Yeah. A moment of silence for everybody on Saturday. That was tough for all of us to hear and to even be involved in. And I personally, gun violence for me is very personal. When you go through traumatic situations, that it really instills within you wanting to do something about it. And so how can the city be held accountable. Gun violence, first of all, there's so many things that you can do. Right now, I want to mention one other thing. The city of Sacramento, I read the police logs. We have numerous pickups on Truxell Road for gun pickups, and that's unacceptable. We hear about the shootings within our neighborhoods, and it's really sad. We need to get the guns off the streets. We need to work on crime prevention. We need to make sure that we can teach our youth the importance of not picking up a gun and thinking it's okay to shoot it at somebody. A lot of the time we hear these stories, and a lot of the time it's young people. They need to understand the importance of that you cannot just pick up. Violence is not the answer. It's not the answer. And so I would work with law enforcement on this. Specifically, the police chief, Kathy Lester, is very interested in this subject. And as we all are now that we've had this current mass shooting on Saturday, we need to work on gun violence prevention, but it goes higher than that, and it's so much more complicated. But in our own communities, and as a council member, I would vow every single day to take care of gun violence, because this is something that's personal to me, and I don't want to see any more people die.
Karina?
Still not. I shouldn't be the middle person. It's just.
Well, I just want to thank Adrianne for doing a moment of silence. Okay, so I currently work at City Hall, and I have had to respond to the last 2 incidents in Sacramento. The church incident 2.5 weeks ago. Then I know that there was a shooting next to Niños Parkway in our own community. And then last night. Enough is enough. We got to get our guns off our streets. We got to invest in our youth. Invest in our programs where there's trusted voices in the community. Work with our police department on the different programs that they have. And also work on response. Because horrible things have been happening. Then what do we do? What do we do as a city moving forward? What kind of services do we offer the families? How do we connect them to the appropriate resources? Because I personally helped in the church incident, and sometimes a family feels overwhelmed with the number of people wanting to help. And sometimes we just need one person to help to communicate what's going on, what they truly need help with. And I think that we need to do a better job about planning how we're going to respond to something. But we shouldn't be responding to this in the first place. I'm mad. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. This is unacceptable. And it still hurts till this day.
Michael?
For many of you who have kids, you can imagine what the parents must feel like, right? To have your young person, right, to bury your child. That is a horrible feeling I would hope that no parent would have to experience. And I know for me, what launched my path to service was my friend being shot and killed. It was recognizing the challenges that we have with violence in our communities. But our strategies are not working. Crime has continued to increase. So we need a new vision towards how we solve public safety. Right, to being able to fund, right, and to make sure that we have the resources for the SAC Police Department is an important strategy, like for an immediate short-term process. But we have to make sure that we are hiring officers, we are hiring diverse officers that look and represent our community. Officers that make sure they have the training and the tools to de-escalate conflict, so a fight doesn't lead to an officer shooting somebody, right, but a fight can be de-escalated immediately. I think immediately about the Office of Violence Prevention that we have right here within the city of Sacramento. That is a little to not usurp. We need to expand our Office of Violence Prevention and expand important programs like the Peacemakers Fellowship and Brother to Brother. I also think about like blight and how blight contributes, right, to crime. There's programs like in Philadelphia, they did a basic assistance repair program where they helped to provide upkeep and change the quality of blight in their neighborhood. Crime reduced by 20%. So reducing gun violence is not just about hiring officers. It's about violence prevention. It's about investing in those who are formerly incarcerated to make sure they can have housing and employment. We'll make sure that our community is safer.
Okay. Thank you. Adrianne?
Amy?
Oh, no.
I was like, me again?
No, you're right. We started. It'll be Michael. How would you enhance public-funded art to improve the creative economy and sustain the local creative workforce?
Listen, right now I am a critic of the city of Sacramento, as you have probably heard today. But there have been a handful of things that the city council has done well the past 2 years. One of them was through COVID dollars, that they made sure that artists had stipends. They created different art programs and funded different art community-based centers all across Sacramento. But that was one-time dollars. Those are one-time dollars that when the COVID dollars go away from the federal government, so will those same stipends to the artists, so will those same projects do. So we have to make an investment from the city of Sacramento. That's why I strongly advocate that the city should make sure they set aside a portion of their funds for programs. I think about Northgate Boulevard. And why don't we have beautiful murals all across that represent our diverse community, that can show the pride in our community and who we are. So as a city, our role within the arts community is to provide the funding, is to make sure that that both artists, like the art program that provided stipends to artists here in Sacramento, that we're funding important arts programs, but also it's like the Arts and Garden Center that's going to be built right here on Newport Circle in the old firehouse. It's making sure that not only has the funding to be able to start, but to continue and expand.
All right. Adrianne?
All right, so to kind of piggyback off what Michael said, the city of Sacramento, the city council currently in March passed another funding available through the American Rescue Plans. They passed $10 million to go out to the creative economy to allow artists to continue having a guaranteed basic income. Not just that, but they're also investing in the funding and the community. You go to downtown Sacramento, you walk the streets, you see the murals, you see Johnny Cash down 16th or 15th, one of those streets, don't quote me on it. But you see that creative economy, and I think that's so important about the city of Sacramento. We're so diverse, and one of the things that we can appreciate is the artistic abilities that we see in Sacramento. And I want to make sure, as well as the council member, especially as a member of the Gardenland Northgate community, that we can contribute to our economy, our creative economy here as well. I'm excited for the upcoming events for the mural to be painted on May 1st, and that's something that we'll all be hearing more about. But going forward throughout Sacramento, we need to make sure that there's federal and state dollars to be able to continue funding our creative economy, because it's one of the things that makes Sacramento so great.
Our community hasn't received its fair share of funding, but when we do, there's plenty of people in this room and in our community that can take those dollars and make them go a long way. Plenty of people I personally know in this room. So thank you to the board members of the Natomas Garden and Arts Club. I see many of you here. Kudos to your tremendous advocacy and work on this project. That's going to bring a lot. I know that there's people in this room that want to do a multicultural fair and maybe write a book about the beauty of our community. There's a lot of talented people here that can do graffiti art on their own time and have been leading the efforts here in our community. Right now, 2% of every publicly funded project in the city of Sacramento needs to have 2% of its dollars go towards art in public places. So when we see those projects come across the table, we got to make sure that we support a local artist in our neighborhood, in the city of Sacramento limits. The North Natomas Community Center and Aquatics Facility was Sacramento artist, and I said, who's the closest mile radius? West Sacramento it is. That's who we selected to do the flip-flops.
Knocking on your door. I know I see some of the folks in here, right in this room, which I've knocked on your door over the past 4 months, right, and talking about the race. When we think about like an inclusive community, that includes not only race and gender, but also age. For its ability to have forums and to engage the community in dialogue is important, but also to be able to go to you, right, to go to places like Stanford Settlement. Like the Senior Center is a great example of a convening of a group of people which we need to make sure that their voices and opinions are constantly heard. When I think about what goes right and what goes wrong, we have to make sure that we have inclusive communications to ensure that everybody is heard of all different ages.
Adrianne?
May I please have a repeat of the question?
Yes. District 3 has many mature residents.
how will you be able to connect with those who may be technology adverse?
That's a really good question, actually. I think one of the most important things is realizing that technology is the way of the world now, and that we need to make sure that if individuals are more mature, that they have that ability to access community centers or senior centers, places where they can learn how to be technologically advanced. I know a lot of people in this community are very close-knit and have family, and so it's nice that they may be able to teach them some of those technological things, but if community members are able to get, for example, a transportation mode to be able to get to the senior centers, to be able to engage in those community events that can teach them technological things. I think that would be one of the benefits that we could advocate for, make sure that there's money involved to improve our transportation services, as a lot of the mature people in the community don't drive. I also want to point out that there's a lot of senior living in our community. I'm not going to point them all out, but I know that there's Escaton on Northview, and I know that there's also a community center down, I want to say Truxell or down by El Centro. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think also engaging with a lot of the community members there, maybe going out, seeing the community events. I know even here at the Escaton, they did the Bobby Jackson workshop that was engaging the community. And so that's just one way that we could do that there, engaging the community by going to the places in which they live and offering those type of services.
COVID-19 tested us in unimaginable ways, and it really exposed the inequities that exist in society, in our city. There's some families that had access to broadband at 100 gigabytes, per hour, at 100 gigabytes per speed, and some that only had 25, some that maybe had 5. It kind of depends on who their provider was. That's not okay. But moving along. So, during the pandemic, there was a lot. We were truly tested. But we came together as Sacramento. We had food deliveries for our seniors. We coordinated through paratransit in Sac Republic. We did PPE to a lot of our senior apartment complexes. We helped with broadband devices, giving hotspots. We worked with our Sacramento Public Library and Valley Vision and a lot of our other nonprofit agencies to do digital literacy. And we did a lot more. And now we just suddenly stopped, even though the pandemic's not over. A lot of our seniors are still worried about going out in public safety and into public spaces. And we got to continue doing more. So in terms of what I'll do is I'll have town halls, I'll have community forums, I'll have park meet and greets, and I'll return your phone calls. I know sometimes a phone call will be one of the easiest things, and I promise to return a call back. That's one thing I've learned at City Hall, is always respond within 24 hours to a constituent and let our neighbor and let them know, hey, I heard you, I'll give you a call back right when I get the chance.
Okay, Adrianne, last question. What concrete steps would you take to make Northgate Boulevard into a destination rather than a shortcut from downtown to North Natomas?
That's a big one. Oh, man. Okay, so I think first off, I think it's important to note that Northgate Boulevard can be a wonderful place with foot traffic. Again, there's a lot of families in this community. I'm personally one of them who walk my children to school, and we want to utilize our infrastructure. We want to make sure we're able to walk across the street. We want to make sure that we're not worried about getting hit by a car or just any of the kind of concerns that we have in the community. So one, I think also Northgate, we need to invest and work with our community-based organizations. I know GNNA is here tonight. They're one of the ones who work on those improvements. The other thing, right now, the Northgate Mobility Plan, getting that input, making sure that we can make the improvements they want to hear. I know they took it back in October, but that is still currently an effort that's being promoted to make improvements down Northgate. And as I have already advocated tonight, the street At this time, the Department of Transportation is working on some of those improvements to our infrastructure, but we can do more. We can work on the maintenance. We can make sure that we have everything working with the different organization groups in Sacramento to make Northgate the best place, and I think it's fully capable. It's one of my favorite places in this city, and I live right here on the main street. I'm ready to see those improvements as a council member. I'll advocate for it, and I'll continue to work with everybody in the community once we get those improvements that we want to see.
Karina?
Every time.
Northgate has so much potential. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about running in our community. Because I love Northgate, and I've been coming here as a high schooler to come visit my cousin Julio and my tío Julian. I got my prom dress on Northgate my senior year in 2007. So, what will I do for Northgate? I'll invest in our businesses. La Superior, the Dulceria, Gladys. We have a lot of incredible businesses down the Northgate. We have incredible people too. I know we have the Cinco de Mayo parade coming up. I know we have a strong fan base of the Lowrider Commission that's activating this space too. And we have a lot of amazing taco trucks. And we have a lot of amazing food. Why not embrace the food that we have? Make it Taco Central. Families are out there every single night. They're sitting down on the little benches that they have next to the taco truck, sitting down to eat. Why not? Adopt a space. Section off a space, put beautiful white lights from Costco or wherever we need to get them from, and create a family area for people to sit down and really build community. Why not make it Taco Central? My partner and I drove down Northgate the other night, bought one taco of each kind from every taco stand, and had a taco tasting at home. It was fun. It was my Friday night, and I just kept thinking about the incredible potential our Northgate corridor has. And not just the businesses, and not just the workers that are there, but you, the people that are going to help me make this happen.
Michael?
Within my campaign, I'm proud to have the support of the Metro Chamber, like a business chamber that is dedicated to making sure that we have more economic development within this district. Because both of them, my opponents are correct. There is tremendous promise when you drive down Northgate Boulevard. But promise doesn't always lead to fact. The first thing we have to be able to do is organize. We need to create a business improvement district. So within down Northgate, we can have the resources to transform the way we look with roads and bike lanes and expand the south. Northgate Boulevard is one of the few business corridors where you walk down the sidewalk and you have a lighting pole in the middle of it. So it's difficult to be able to walk. And by us forming a PBID, by bringing businesses together, that is the collective power that we need to change the physical infrastructure. When I think about the two lots right in front of Garden Valley, right on Patio Boulevard. Right, Karina was talking about food trucks. Hey, listen, that's been me since I was a kid, right? One thing I've always done is been able to eat well. But why can't we create a food plaza right there? Why can't we set it as a permanent structure where we're able to build the seating and everything that we need to be able to have all the best food trucks right here at Northgate Boulevard, not just on the weekends, but every single day. So we need a new vision for how we develop. We need a new vision. I know for me as an entrepreneur, that's what I bring to the City Council. A new set of ideas to transform problems that historically hasn't been solved.
Okay, now it's time for closing statements. And they're only 1 minute, so they're pretty quick, but, go for it. Adrianne, you're first.
Okay, so I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters. I'd like to thank GNNA. I'd like to thank Stanford Settlement and Julie. And then I'd like to thank the Natomas Buzz for putting on this wonderful candidate forum. I'm going to say thank you so much for listening to our opinions and allowing the representation of Gardenland to be here in present. We really have the ideas to make South Natomas better, and regardless of who ends up in the seat, we're so excited to all be able to put forth our opinions. I do want to say one other thing. In 1971, the Sacramento City Council divided in 8 different seats and the mayor. At that time, since 1971, a woman has not represented this District 3 seat. This is time. I'm driving equity on my campaign, and gender equity is one of them. it's time to elect a woman. So vote for Adrianne Gonzales on June 7th. We're going to make this district a better place. Thank you.
Oh, Michael's next. You're next.
I'm going to stand up for this one. I'll give you 60 seconds. I want to thank both Karina and Adrianne for the opportunity just to be able to have dialogue. I think no matter what, we're going to get better. But for me, I'm raising a family in the district. I own a home in the district. I work in the district. I'm serving hundreds of young people and families right now in this district. The reason why I ran for this seat, because we need a new vision. The status quo has not worked for our community. You drive down Northgate, you walk through Gardenland, what you see is the same challenges over and over and over again. I'm running for a new vision. I'm running to be able to tackle homelessness, build more affordable housing. I think if anything, invest in young people. The future of our city is young people. We have to make sure that we have career pathways available. We make sure that we invest in service opportunities, and we have jobs available right here in Northgate. With the support of the City Council, we can support entrepreneurship. We can provide the resources for small businesses to thrive. I'm running to make sure that we have transformative change. Vote Michael Lynch on June 7th. Thank you.
You know what? I'm going to stand up on this one too. I'm kind of tired of sitting down, right? We're knocking on doors. Thank you so much for being here to join us this evening. It means a lot to us as candidates that are putting our stories and our vision on the line to see how we can improve District 3. This is a good problem to have 3 qualified candidates. But let me tell you this, I'm ready for this job tomorrow. I have 8 years of experience helping students get to college. I have 4 years of experience in human resources. I'm a small business owner in our community. I've been working hard running the vaccination clinic, setting up COVID testing sites, passing a school bond. I drive around intentionally taking phone calls in my car so I can drive around the district so I'm around the schools during pickup and drop-off times. I'm excited. I think that we can accomplish a lot together. I'm one person, but I get my vision from you, and I get my ideas from you. And I'm excited to work with you to truly create change. Because yes, I'll be voting yes or no on the dais, but at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us. My phone number is 916-800-2361. If you have any other questions, you're more than happy to text me or call me. Okay, thank you.
You all deserve that, absolutely. We thank you for running for office and for participating in this forum and taking all these questions from this great audience. And I just want to thank, Stanford, the Natomas Buzz, and the League volunteers, Olga, Charlene, and the timer, Claudia, and let you know that we have Olga registering voters over there. If you have moved, if you have changed your name, if you've changed your signature, you're not sure exactly how you signed it when you first registered, or if you've never registered to vote. All those reasons you need to stop by there, and Olga is bilingual. And then I was going to announce some things about the election. It's June 7th, and you'll all get a ballot in the mail. Everyone will that's registered to vote. And you can take your time. You have some time to either mail it back or put it in a drop box, which I think you'll be talking about, or vote in person at a vote center. So this concludes our forum. Thank you very much, all of you, and we'll turn it over to Stanford.
Okay, thank you again to all the candidates for being here. 3 quick announcements. This is an amazing turnout. Love seeing our community come together like this. If you are not on the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association mailing list, you need to talk to someone at GNNA tonight before you go about getting on that list. Marbea's got her hand up. So please, Annette, also please get that done. The second thing that I want to announce is somebody mentioned, I broke it. Okay. Somebody mentioned participatory budgeting. I'm very proud to announce that Stanford Settlement Neighborhood Center has been awarded a grant for community outreach.